Welcome here to another edition of Nolf Bites with the gang here talking football at Nolf Chrysler, Dodge Jeep, and Ram. You can't even pronounce things.
Dodge it deep.
Yeah, Dodge Jeep, Ram. That's Andy Byers. I'm Chris Rossetti. That's Ronnie Geist. We're here to just talk a little bit of high school football, maybe a little extra beyond that. But wow, guys, was that another great weekend of football? I saw a game in Reimersburg that was kind of a throwback. You don't see very many games that finish 14-6 anymore. You don't see very many games where it's dominated by the defenses, but that game was dominated by the defenses. It was one of those situations where every metric says that Union AC Valley should have lost the game, but because their defense kept bending but not breaking, they won the game. And you're a defensive guy, Ronnie. You must love that, to see stuff like that.
Well, we kind of tell our kids, we're going to bend, but we're not going to break. Tackle the football. Bad things happen when offenses have to keep snapping the football. And Waz used to say that to us when we were playing, but I think that's something that rings true in every level of the sport. If they keep snapping the ball, it gives us another chance to make a play.
How exciting is it from a defensive perspective when you stop a team inside the 10-yard line? I mean, I know as an announcer we get excited, but I got to imagine. I know as a fan you're probably getting excited, Andy. But like, what's it like as a player, coach, when you make a stop like
that? It's nerve-wracking. It kills you inside because we scheme everything to stop every single play, and when it doesn't happen, you get stuck. But inside of the 10, I mean, that's what us as defensive guys, that's what we game plan for. We don't adjust until we have to. And if we can stop you inside the 10, it's the same as stopping you at the 40 or the 50 or the 30. It doesn't matter. But a team like Ridgeway running that single wing offense, that is a blast from the past if you've ever heard. Just to prepare for that in a week is almost impossible. I've always said that the hardest offense to prepare for would be like a true triple, where they're diving, running triple off the edge. But that single wing, that's a nightmare.
It's, Tony Gerg, who was the head coach at Elk County Catholic, and they had a lot of success running that single wing. Now the offensive coordinator at Ridgeway. You got to give a coach credit for realizing, hey, you know what? We might have to do something a little different. That's not always the easiest thing, is it?
No, honestly, thinking outside the box nowadays is really just going back in time. At Red Bank, we run a 3-front. They called it the Bear front back in the 85. The Bears made it famous, but I mean, it's just old school football, just done in the new age way.
Perry at nose tackle, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, we're lucky to have a couple of those. Yeah.
Who was a great running linebacker for them?
Singletary.
Oh yeah. I don't know why I was completely missing who that was, but that was wow. I mean, getting off topic here, but as your door was that doorbell or your phone ringing there?
That's probably someone looking for a deal.
Well, they're going to get great deals here at Nolf Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Talk a little bit about what you got going on right now, Andy.
Oh, there's all kinds of stuff. Last day of our month here is today, so rebates and stuff end, and we'll reload tomorrow. But looks like everything's got some really good incentives on it, and they're trying to push some of these 24s out, getting ready for the 25s. So it's a good time for a deal.
I always thought like, oh boy, I only got a 24 when I should be getting a 25, even though it's still 24. But you're right. Like, it's still a brand new car,
yeah,
or truck or Jeep or whatever. I don't know. They got to give the car industry credit. They really got you thinking that you got to get that 25, but you're right. Get a great deal on that 24 right now. So, speaking of great deals, you had a great deal down here in New Bethlehem, just down the road on Friday night. You were playing against Brockway in a game that everybody kind of looked at as one of those early season, who's the top dog? Is Red Bank still the top dog? Are the Rovers the new dog in town? Turns out the Bulldogs still the top dog. They've you guys really controlled their running game. I mean, they tried to run the football on you, but got a couple of studs out there. Jackson Huffman, he's doesn't necessarily look the part of a defensive edge rusher type guy, but man, he plays like one.
Yeah, we're lucky to have two wide receivers playing nose tackle for us, and they just so happen to be tough as nails. We thought they were going to come out and sling the ball around. They chose not to, which I guess I can understand. We have 3 down linemen. You have 5 guys to block 3, so logically run the football. We do our best to get kids to fly around to the football, make plays, and ultimately that's what the game's about.
Another big game this week for Red Bank. They play Port Allegany. That's another test. Got to go up there Saturday afternoon. I know Blaine Gold, the Red Bank coach, and Justin Minkowski, the Port coach, weren't real happy that they were both picked to play another Saturday game. But in some ways, I kind of like the idea that it's the only game in town. Maybe that's just me, but a big game should kind of have its own flair to it, I think.
Well, Andy can vouch for this. It's not exactly easy waking high school kids up at 8 o'clock in the morning to get on a bus for 2 hours. But it is nice that, we are the spotlight game, so to speak. In scouting for them, I ran past Dom Corsetti from Keystone. That kid can ball. He just flies around, man. He gave Port fits just simply by himself. I mean, obviously the supporting cast around him, but that kid's like a mini Jace Ferguson.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes you gotta go with starting that freshman like he did last year with him and go through some of those growing pains. Central Clarion did that with Jace. I questioned it at the time, but man, was I wrong there. I mean, obviously, Jace Ferguson's like PlayStation, Xbox joystick on rookie mode, 5 more touchdown passes, 100 more yards rushing. It's like having, Lamar Jackson. That may be the best comparison.
I don't know who to compare him to. I mean, I can tell you from a defensive perspective, you don't control them. There's a lot of offenses you can say, all right, if we can take this away, we can force them to do that. But he does them both so well, and there's such a good cast around him that it makes the whole thing tough.
They mercy ruled St. Mary's, and they were all complaining about how bad they played. I mean, you got to feel bad for them, right? Like guys, you just mercy rule somebody. Like, it's okay. I get it. You have the expectations are so high. And sometimes that's hard to deal with when the expectations are through the roof. But it's good to have expectations through the roof sometimes. I think more and more that's got to be, especially in 6 classifications at the lower levels. I think that if you're the Red Banks, the Port Allegany's, the Central Clarions of the world, you have to start thinking about how do we get to a state championship game? How do we win a state championship? This isn't the 4 classification system anymore where it's impossible.
I think Ronnie's favorite line is, we're going to mercy roll them. We should mercy roll them.
With the extra classifications, it opens it up for teams that in previous years had little to no chance. Brockway, they're AAA now.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. They should have been AA, decided to move to AAA. I think partly to avoid Central Clarion, but I think also partly because they really want to take that next step, and I feel like they have a better chance of doing that at AAA.
In a state run or a district?
In a district run. I think they've got to think that every program has a bit of a different goal set. Whereas right now, I think Central Clarion and maybe even Red Bank have that goal mindset of what can we do at the state level. I think other programs are like, hey, we've got to get past that hurdle first at the district level and then move on to the state level. It's kind of tough because there's only a couple teams in AAA, but they are going to have a sub-regional, and those are kind of interesting. That's one of the byproducts of 6 classifications. We're seeing more and more of that. Some people don't like it. I'm actually okay with it. I'd rather have like a true championship set up with a sub-regional than just, play a 2-team championship.
So if they go to AAA, the district winner out of 9, who would they get?
5 or 8. Off the top of my head, I know 5's involved because I remember Somerset being involved, but I think the other side of it might be 8. So, those are winnable games for teams from like District 9. It's not you're not running into the WPIL right away, and not that District 9 can't beat the WPIL, but I think when it does happen, it's a bit of an upset.
Sure.
Speaking of upsets, I don't know. Again, I probably pay more attention to this stuff than you guys do. Fort LaBeouf knocked off Farrell over the weekend. It was 29-28. Farrell's now 0-2. They haven't been 0-3 on the field. Now they were 0-3 technically in 2006 because they won a game and then had an ineligible player and had to forfeit. Haven't been 0-3 on the field since 1984.
I know.
Are they just having a down year? Or are these other teams that good?
Well, it's a little bit of both. So they played Hickory in week 1, and Hickory went to the state semifinals in 3A last year before losing to Bell Vernon, who obviously went on to win the state title. They lost to Fort LaBeouf. Not Fort LaBeouf's a good team, but it was a little bit of a surprise, I think. This week they've got Ursuline, Ohio. Talk about going from the fire into the furnace. Ursuline just beat up on McDowell over the weekend, and McDowell beat Woodland Hills to start the season. So, I mean, the 0-3 start is a real possibility. They lost a couple kids. Danny Odom transferred to a prep school in Florida. He had Division I talent. He's gotten looks, I think, from Ole Miss, North Carolina already. You can say as a coach, hey, next man up.
Yeah.
But where do you get that next man up at a small school that's got that kind of talent? It's hard. And you don't blame the kid for moving on, but boy, it's hard to do that, So to answer your question, a little bit of both, and they've got a couple of stud teams left. They got to play Cathedral Prep still. They got to play Sharon still. They got to play Wilmington still. So, it's not often that Farrell faces some challenges in football, but they're facing a little one right now. And it's interesting because, from a District 9 perspective, 10 and 9 would meet in the quarterfinals. And, I think Farrell's still the favorite to win AA in 10. So how does Central Clarion match up with Farrell and, all that stuff? I mean, we'll get into that as the year goes on, but it is interesting to see them 0-2. It's kind of like, if you saw Red Bank or Central Clarion or somebody like that 0-2, you're like, what the heck's going on? So,
well, iron sharpens iron. So, I mean, sometimes coaches will take that heavy workload just to say, all right, we've been through it. Now we're here to win it. It's not always a bad situation to be in if you can maintain the kids.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, it's just making sure the kids don't get down. Hey guys, we're gonna take a quick break here. We're here at Nolf Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram. I've got it all messed up again.
It sounds good.
It's close.
I got all of them. I got all of them in there at least. We'll be right back here on Nolf Bites. Why should you choose Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fairmont City? Why wouldn't you choose them? At Nolf, their sales are speedy and include upfront and straightforward pricing. If it's service and parts you're after, they have skilled technicians who are factory trained while offering knowledgeable parts experts. Maybe you need Nolf's full service body shop offering top quality collision repair to all makes and models of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Or do you want to cruise the highway in a clean, shiny vehicle thanks to Nolf's detailing service? No matter your needs, Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fairmont City is there for you. Find out more at nolfchryslerdodge.com. Whether retirement is just around the corner or years away, John Bongiovanni, Lucas Slazak, and Adam Jack of Generational Wealth Management in Erie and Bradford are here for you. John, a Forbes recognized best in state wealth advisor, Lucas and Adam provide customized investment advisory solutions and retirement planning services. Generational Wealth Management offers world-class investment services and internationally recognized insurance products from Northwestern Mutual, an industry leader. The Generational Wealth Management team provides a high level of expertise and service to their professional and business clients. Contact the Erie office at 814-651-0838 or the Bradford office at 814-368-4065 or check them out online at gwm.nm.com. Back here on Nolf Bites with the gang here at Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. See, I got it right that time.
You did.
Great deals going on. Pick up a great deal on a 24 model as the 25 models are coming out. Andy will take care of you down here. Ronnie will take care of you down here. They know cars more than they even know football.
That's true.
How about that? I mean, they guys know football, but these guys know cars and Jeeps and trucks too, and they'll get you taken care of anytime you want. Just stop down here in Fairmont City. Check them out online. It's Nolf Chrysler. Wait, what's
Nolf
the website?
Chrysler.
Yeah,
NolfChryslerDodge.com.
I was pretty sure I had that right. NolfChryslerDodge.com. So make sure you check them out online. Got their inventory there too. You don't even have to come and you can pre-shop your car before you come and shop your car nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much easier than when we all started buying cars. Andy, a special week for Ronnie Geist. 25 years ago, the Bulldogs lost to Clarion. They were a really good Clarion team with Cal Cathcart and all those guys. They lost 35-13. They were down 35-0 at one point in that game, but Ronnie here had a 95-yard fumble return for a touchdown. Do you remember that, Ronnie?
Yeah, I do.
You ran 95 yards.
Not on purpose. There were bad guys chasing me.
What do you remember of that?
Well, you want to know what's funny is I was a freshman that year, and if I remember right, they were driving the field and they decided to kick a field goal, I believe, but the ball got loose, and I knew so little about football that a friend of mine who played cornerback at the time, he screamed, "Scoop and score, scoop and score." I didn't even know what to do. Luckily, there it was. I picked it up and ran, and luckily Cal Cathcart wasn't close enough to catch me, I guess.
Or Danny Patton or
Yeah.
Mario Bernardi or any of those guys that they had that all won state titles in track.
Yeah. I think the 4x1.
He out sprinted the entire state championship track team.
Well, luckily,
score
I had
that
a little bit of a
touchdown.
head start.
So it was like the opposite. I was just watching the movie Major League the other night, and it was the opposite of Willie Mays Hayes at the beginning of it, where he thought where he wasn't invited to camp, and they took him out, and the security guards came and threw him out, and he's like still sleeping and comes in barefoot, and then races past everybody. Ronnie was the other way around. He was the guy. He'd have been the guy that was getting tracked down from behind.
Hey, I can say that I'm glad that Clarion's playing back in that stadium. That was always one of the coolest stadiums to play in. The fans seemed like they were right on top of you all the time. And then Clarion would come down that hill. It's quite the stadium. I like it.
I remember a game there, fog rolled in. It was Clarion versus CL. And the fog rolled in off the river, and you couldn't see a thing. Like, I'm standing on the sideline, and I'm like on the Clarion sideline trying to stat a game. Couldn't see across the field. Ryan Smith's going to kill me for saying this, but Smitty had the old Keystone coach who played at CL for Clyde Conti, was the backup quarterback. And JJ Ferguson, I think, was the quarterback. He gets hurt, and they had to put Smitty in at quarterback. And Clyde hadn't had him take any snaps all week, and ends up fumbling like 6 times. They didn't lose all 6 of them, but always laughed that like nobody could see him fumble it because the fog was rolling in like that. But he took that as a lesson when he became a head coach and made sure his backup quarterback always took snaps. So, sometimes you learn from experiences that maybe aren't the most fun, but that's one of those moments down there that fog rolling in and can't see a thing. I couldn't imagine, like, we do some games there from now, and I can't imagine what I'd do if the fog rolled. I guess we'd just give up. Like, well, folks, we think somebody has the football. The one thing people don't understand about sometimes our broadcast versus like what they see on Saturdays or Sundays is those guys all have somebody in their ear. They got a spotter, they got people doing stats for them, all that. We're doing all of that ourselves, right? Like I don't have a spotter. So like Owen Bish picks up a fumble and returns it 74 yards for a touchdown for Union AC on Friday night. And my call's basically like, well, a Union kid's got the ball and he's running. He's going to score a touchdown here. I wish I could tell you who it was, but he's at the far sideline and I can't tell you right now. And like, I didn't know who it was until he turns around like in the end zone, because he's on the far visitor sideline where he picks it up and scoops and scores, and you can't see the number. And because like the guy's, he's to the side of you, and it's hard sometimes.
With
So-
go ahead.
Some of their points come from defense also.
They scored their second touchdown was a 74-yard fumble recovered for a touchdown. They went on one drive. They had an 11-play, 54-yard drive, I think it was, and it's something ridiculous. Like 49% of their yardage came on one drive, 21% of their plays, and like 27% of their time of possession came on one drive in the first half to give them a 7-0 lead. Great catch by Aiden Fox, by the way. That kid can play.
Yeah.
He's a baller, and he went up and high pointed a ball, had a couple of interceptions. Now he picked off a ball late with about 6 minutes to go in the end zone. It was a 4th down play for Ridgeway from the 17, and then decides he's going to run it out and gets to the 1 yard line. And, the coaches are all like, what are you doing? But how hard is that, Ronnie, to like coach a player to go down in the end zone like that?
We don't practice that. We're hoping that you play enough Madden to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, it just, it's just one of those things. And then Dan Reed being Dan Reed, the Keystone, used to coach at Keystone, now the Union AC coach, as he's aggressive. And so what's he do from the 1 yard line? First of all, they get 2 false start penalties to start the drive from their own 1. So first of all, I think it's a little unfair to the defense. The other team only gets to go back like a half a yard at the 1, but if you jump offside, it goes 5 yards the other way. I don't know how you fix that. Maybe you retroactively go like, well, if they had a false start and you jump, you get like 1 free jump offside or something, right? But like, it's kind of unfair, isn't it?
I mean, what do you do?
I think that what I just said, you kind of like get 1 free jump offside.
So if all right, I got you. So I was just thinking, how about this? What if you false start, but your next play you throw for a touchdown? Do we get to call that touchdown back?
That could be an option too. I mean, everything's always done for the offenses. It's not poor defense never gets anything like that.
How about those 3 kickoffs?
Oh yeah, we had 3 kickoffs go out of bounds.
I think that's
3 of them. 3 of them.
2 went out of bounds, and the third one was touchback.
Oh yeah.
By that point, you're like wanting to just be like, here, just take the ball to 35.
Heck with it, kick it. We'll let you keep kicking it.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
But yeah, it's like so yeah. So anyhow, they're back at their half yard line, right? 99.999% of coaches are going to run the ball at least once from there, right? Not Dan Reed. The old riverboat gambler throws 3 passes from the half a yard line, incomplete. So now they're punting from their own half a yard line. So the punter's got like 10 yards. I'm thinking take the safety, right? Like you're up 14-6. And it might be okay taking the safety with 6 minutes to go. They punt it away. Of course, it's a short punt. I mean, you can't blame the kid for that. He's trying to make sure it doesn't get blocked, right? So they end up at the 22-yard line. So Ridgeway starts a drive at the Union AC 22 and doesn't score.
That's tough.
Yeah, they get to the 5. They try a run play on 4th and 2 from the 5, and Union AC stops them. Union AC goes like maybe 8-9 yards, has to punt it again. Ridgeway takes over with like 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go from the Union AC 33. But with no timeouts, and you're running that single wing, and you're afraid to run the ball at that point in time. And so you're trying to throw it, and you're really not effective throwing it. And so they ended up 3 incomplete passes, and then Fox picks this one off at like the 5, and you're thinking, go down, right? Like that's what every coach in America is thinking, go down. Now he returns it out over midfield.
Well, I can tell you the year we went to the state championship, I don't remember which game it was, but we were up comfortably, 2-3 scores. And generally, me and Blaine are always on the defensive headset. Offense runs their headset. Well, I switch over to listen to the offense, and Jason really, really likes that. But him and the other offense coordinators are talking, and what do you want to do here? What should we run? And I chime in. I said, it's real simple. You're going to run the ball 3 times and punt. That's what you're going to do. Like as a defensive guy, run the football. Like, I love it. Run it. Give it back to us. We'll take care of it.
What did he do? Throw it 3 times?
Probably just to make me upset.
Big game in DuBois. DuBois with a nice one over Punxsy. Carson City. How about Carson City just beating up on Brookville? I didn't see that coming. We all 5 of us on the website picked Brookville to win that game. Boy, are we morons.
Brookville's beat up though. We scrimmaged them. They were beat up when we scrimmaged them.
How are you beat up this early? If you're beat up this early in the season, you got problems.
Well, we're all small schools.
Yeah.
You know, we don't.
Their coach made them run through too many brick walls.
yeah. Like I said, I would run through a brick wall for him. No question. I'm pretty sure that's our game this week, Brookville and Central Clarion. It's, and then I hear Brookville might be without its quarterback this week. And
Garden City must be pretty good, though.
yeah, I got to figure that they always are. When aren't they good? Like, even last year after everything happened with Mason Martin and all of that, they still were a tough out the whole season. And I mean, that's about as horrific of something that could happen. And, it's great to see that he's starting to really recover now. Mason is, and it was like the 1-year anniversary of that. And he's, he's back, starting to talk a little bit. And, but they're just that football program. They're just a program. I mean, they're always going to be there.
Yeah. It's like a mentality. Like they're born with it, I think, down there. When I played, no one wanted to go there. You went there, you knew that you were going to get beat up from the start to the finish. And I just think, like you said, they're a tough out. They're going to play you tough no matter what. And they're not always going to have the best athletes, but they're probably one of the best coached.
Yeah. And they're going to run that misdirection offense. And that misdirection offense is a real pain in the neck to defend.
Yeah.
Guys, watch any college football over the weekend?
Not a drop.
No, too much going on this weekend.
He's got Pee Wee midget football all weekend.
How'd the Pee Wees do?
The little kids, the Bantams, they won. And then the juniors lost.
Who'd they play?
CL. Or actually, I think they're Central Clarion now. They wear the same uniforms, and they look just like them.
So the co-op with that, how's that work? Do they count every kid in the other school, or is that half?
So like CL is the host school because they have the most kids.
Okay.
So whichever school has the most kids has to count their full grouping of kids. And then the other 2 schools in it, they take their number and they divide it by 2. So it's like, say we're just going to round here. Say Clarion's got like 100 kids, then it counts as 50.
I got you.
And say North Clarion has like 75 kids. It counts as basically, I can't do that math, 37 and a half or whatever it would be, I guess.
That makes, that's a definite difference.
Yeah, it is.
Like obviously Union's our closest
Yeah.
school, but if you think like we could go over, half of their numbers, that
would take half of their numbers, half of AC Valley's numbers, and your full numbers, and it would knock you guys up to AA down at Red Bank. But still, it's an advantage. There's no question. Just like there's some advantages built into being a private school, there's some advantages built into being a co-op, and those schools, if you took all 3 of those schools and put them together, I think Central Clarion be knocking on the door of 4A, if not B4A. So, I understand why they do it that way because, it's harder to get kids to go out for football when it's when you have to go to a different school to practice and stuff like that. But at the same time, you'd be lying if you didn't say there was some sort of advantage.
What logic is there to only count half of the kids though?
At one point in time, they counted all of them, and then they decided that wasn't fair, so they came up with 50%. You're asking the wrong guy if you're asking why they came up with 50%. I have no idea. A lot of what the PIAA does is just throw something up against the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
Let us know next week. Figure that one out.
I'm sure nobody's going to – basically, I'll tell you what the answer would be if I asked. The answer would be, well, that's what our board of directors at one point in time thought they should do. It's not really an answer, mind you, but that's the answer I'd get.
Well, that just seems so. Every
Random?
kid has the opportunity to play.
Yeah.
You're not just going and saying.
Well, you saw them do this with those with the tech school kids, the VOTech kids. there for a while, only 10% of them were counting. And now they're back to counting all of them again. And like they've gone back and forth on that. And, you know, some of it's based on, well, look at who's winning, or, you know, look at what Southern Columbia is doing. Or, you know, when you start reacting, you know, I call it the Aliquippa rule, where you start reacting to because somebody's good and we're going to make a rule to make them not good anymore. What are we doing? Like, seriously, what are we doing? Like, we should, like, I get that we now live and everybody gets a trophy society, but really, what are we doing by saying that, you know, well, if you're successful, we're going to move you up a classification? Wait a second. So I built a program. Let's not even say football. Let's take, I don't know, Clarion volleyball.
Yeah, Clarion volleyball.
I built a program, and now I have success in that program at the level that I'm equal with everybody else. And now you're telling me I've got to go play schools that have more people to draw from because I'm successful? That's really dumb when you really sit back and think about that. That's not really solving any type of problem.
I kind of have this little saying that adults ruin it for kids. And that's a situation where those kids have put that time in. They've built that program up. If they choose to go up to the next level, I think that's logical. Hey, as a program, we're going to challenge ourselves. We're going to walk up to AA, AAA, whatever it is. But why are we just bumping them because they've won 2 championships, 3 championships?
I understood like the whole concept with the if you bring in a certain number of transfers and all of that, like that does make sense to me, because like eventually it shouldn't be college football. It shouldn't be the NFL where it's free agency. And I mean, college football is free agency now. I mean, let's just be honest. It's, you look around and, you know, I know you guys didn't watch anything, but Miami's got a quarterback named Cam Ward, and which I thought was funny, because didn't the Carolina Hurricanes have a goalie named Cam Ward at one point in time?
I don't know.
But you know, because Miami being the Hurricanes, obviously, this is, I guess, the how my sick sports mind works. But you know, like, it just, like, there was like a free agent bidding war for him between Florida State and Miami. Like, what are we doing? Like, it just, I don't know. Like, it's not as fun anymore, because you just never know. Like, you have a guy like, look at Pitt. Like, Pitt's got this quarterback in. I don't remember his name. I'm not much of a Pitt fan, but they brought this transfer quarterback in from Alabama, I think, and he had a stud performance on Saturday. Now, it's against Kent State, but still, he had a stud performance. But you know that if he has a great year as a freshman, not at Pitt next year, somebody else is going to pay the money to take him and move him on. So I don't know. That's just kind of ruins the college football the way that I think we grew up with, at least my opinion.
Well, the bumping them up to when you're on top, someone's always going to want to make an excuse as to why you get there. And we were talking, you know, how many high school football teams were practicing yesterday for 4 hours on Labor Day? I know of at least one, but how many do you think there were out there? And that's the difference in what's making some of these teams good. And so I don't agree. I think stay with the numbers. If you are recruiting properly, you have the coaching staff doing their job, the players interested and excited, the programs will be successful. Probably the same reason Karn City's been good for all these years. So, but bottom line is, someone will always look for a reason of why you got there, how you got there, and why you have an unfair advantage. And, you know, if we talk about private schools and all that, that's a complete different animal, but just public schools in general, I think the number system's good.
There was a guy I talked to. He said, if a kid transfers into your program and that kid came from a 4A school, you should have to play a 4A program. He said his logic was take the highest transfer in. So if Red Bank has a kid that transfers in from Aliquippa, and Aliquippa is playing 4A football, then Red Bank has to, in order for him to stay on your roster, that you have to play a 4A program or 4A schedule.
Man, every transfer is different.
Well, athletic transfer.
Yeah, but like, how do you?
I would agree with that in the case of where you could recruit. Like, you know, if you could offer somebody a scholarship to come to your Catholic school, then in that case.
With high school NIL though, it sort of starts to blend the the rules a little bit, because I mean, I know we're not seeing it a lot around here, but what stops Nolf, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram from offering a stud football player at, I don't know, Armstrong some money to come and play at Red Bank? I mean, I know they'll tell you, oh, that doesn't happen. Get out of here. As soon as you make,
doesn't happen.
it doesn't happen with Nolf, but as soon as you put money attached to anything, it's gonna ruin it to some extent. And when you're putting money attached to high school athletics and high school athletes, I mean, it's only a matter of time before you start to see that more and more.
Sure.
Because, you know, some of these places are already, I mean, you go down south, like the state of Georgia. I saw this last week. State of Georgia has like something like 10 football coaches making over $100,000.
Red Bank isn't.
You go to Texas and they're building $15-20 million stadiums. My brother lives there. I've been there. I've gone past some of these stadiums. I mean, my God, like
what's the right answer though? Because you look at people are making money off these players and their performance. Do the players deserve some of that, or
at the high school level?
I don't know. I'm just,
boy. I mean, how much money is really being made off of the high school players' performance? I mean, when a school is at Red Bank selling tickets to get into a football game, I mean, that's all going back into the budget, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
maybe not here. Maybe where they're paying $100,000 to a coach and building a $20 million stadium. I don't know. I just think at some point it just, like, amateur athletics there's always money made on something, but I'm not sure that, like, you know, you can say, well, it's the players this and the players that. And I mean, at the college level, they try. I always looked at it and go, yeah, but somebody got, I don't know if you got one, right? Did you get any money when you went to Cal to play football?
No.
Yeah. See, but you had teammates that did.
Yeah.
And so those teammates had an advantage over me as a normal student, or you as a normal student, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, so they were getting paid. People didn't look at it that way, but that college scholarship was worth an awful lot. I was lucky. I had a grandmother who had taken care of me. And so she had died right before I went to college, and she left me some money. And so I didn't end up with any debt when I got out. But, you know, I know a lot of people end up with debt when they graduate college. And so these athletes weren't ending up with debt when they graduated college. So the idea that they weren't getting paid was a bit of a fallacy.
Well, sure. But that, you know, use Pitt, you know, if, you know, Braylon Wagner goes to Pitt, becomes a stud, and Pitt's making $8 a pop off his T-shirts.
The money that's out there now is crazy. But see, when NIL came about, they really meant that you were going to benefit from your name, image, and likeness. So, like, Ronnie Geist goes to California, PA, and Ronnie Geist can then market himself as Nolf can hire Ronnie to be their spokesperson. But that's not what it's turned into. It's turned into these collectives where these guys aren't doing anything marketing themselves. They're just being handed paychecks. Mm-hmm. And so it isn't what it was intended or talked about being when they talked about, well, Ed O'Brien didn't make any money for being on NCAA college basketball as cover boy. But now he doesn't have to do anything to make that money. He just has to show up and play football. And so it's become like a pro sport. It's nothing more than just another pro sport at the end of the day. And hey, look, maybe that's okay. Maybe everybody's okay with that. It makes it less interesting to me. Like, if guys are, and it's actually worse because at least in the NFL, I know if the Steelers draft TJ Watt's going to be around 4 or 5 years. I use that example with the Pitt quarterback. Guy comes in, goes out a year. I mean, there has to be some sort of limitation on how many times you can transfer and how that all works. If otherwise, it's just going to become.
Is there a cap on what these college kids can make?
Nope.
How many of them are going to make enough money they say, I don't need to go pro?
Yeah, I mean, there will come a point where after going to college for 4 years, some of these guys are going to make so much money that, like, and they're playing football is a great example because it's such a wear and tear type sport on your body that some of these guys are going to be like, I'm not even going. And so what does it do to the NFL eventually?
Well, yeah, but prior to the NIL, if a coach held your papers and said they didn't want you to transfer, you were at their beckoning call. And I get it. They invested money in you and all of that, but there was absolutely little to no control.
I get part of that. I really do. I think that there has to be some sort of limitation to what is going. I'm not saying that we should go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there has to be some sort of limitation on how much movement there can be. Because if you're like from a fan's perspective, a coach's perspective, the whole thing, how do you invest in anything if you don't know if a guy's going to be around a year from now?
Let's give them 2 moves.
Yeah, but won't the free market dictate itself almost though?
Yeah.
I mean,
what do you think would happen in the NFL if Pat Mahomes was a free agent every year?
I think people would stop paying $40 million a year for second-rate quarterbacks.
Or maybe somebody would treat him right and he'd want to stay. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting discussion. I don't think we're going to solve that today.
No, probably not.
Probably not. I mean, speaking of, I know you guys didn't see it, but man, Penn State looked good.
They played West Virginia, right?
Yeah, and it was funny. Everybody was like nationally, everybody was like, "Oh, West Virginia's really good." Like, they did their picks before the game, and I mean, look, I know what those are worth because I've never gone undefeated. Not once have I ever gone undefeated. But Urban Meyer's picking West Virginia to win. I think Desmond Howard picked West Virginia to win, and Penn State just went out and took care of business. The offense looks night and day. This new offensive coordinator, Andy K, I can't pronounce his, like Kolinik or something like that, came from Kansas, putting guys in motion, crossing guys, just scheming guys open. You hear that a lot, scheming guys open, and that's what they're doing. They're scheming guys open. It'll be interesting to see how that works with the Steelers on Sunday, because I mean, Matt Canada, sure, Matt Canada could have schemed a high school team, let alone a pro team. And now they got at least a real offensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. I mean, I know people are like, well, it didn't look good in preseason, but nobody in the NFL was showing anything in preseason.
Yeah.
The coaches had their way. They probably wouldn't even play guys in preseason.
Well, you said putting people in motion. Anyone out there that wants to be an offense coordinator, put your kids in motion. Motion's the hardest thing to defend in high school football. It's almost impossible. And I can
You're just giving
imagine,
away secrets.
Hey, I'm just saying, if I ever become an offense coordinator, which will never happen,
first thing
I'm doing
Sometimes
is
the
putting
best
people
offensive coordinators are guys that coach on the defensive side, because you know what you're looking for then.
I don't know if I have the patience.
I'm going to guess. I guess calling a defense is easier.
I've never called offense, so I don't know.
I mean,
well, Jason does it.
Well, that's good.
How often are you thinking ahead on, how many plays ahead are you thinking on defense?
We kind of scheme things a little different than I think most people do. We're more of a tendency defense. So we're going to look at, out of X, Y, and Z set, here's what we expect. So I'll kind of look at the field. Me and Blaine will talk in the headsets, and then we kind of allow our kids to adjust on the field. But
you can do that on defense. It's hard to, on offense, you've got to be thinking 2 or 3 plays ahead. Okay, if this play works, then what do I do? If this play doesn't work, what do I do?
Did you scheme for Brockway coming out in that bunch formation?
That we did not. They come out and everyone at the line of scrimmage, three running backs. That was not in.
Were there some choice words that you can't repeat on the air going on at that point in time?
There were a few. Some that, I shouldn't probably say, but generally speaking, we thought they were going to come out and sling it, and that's what we were prepared for. Our kids adapted relatively well.
Considering that you killed them though, 6 points in the first half, maybe they should have slung it.
0 in the first half.
0 in the first half. There you go. Maybe they should have slung it. They see. Sometimes I think football coaches more than any other sport overthink it. I just threw the ball for 350 yards, right? Well, I'm gonna trick them. I'm gonna run the ball this week. Nobody's gonna see that coming. Yo, throw the ball. You just threw for 350. Throw the ball more.
I think it's all about matchups. I think ultimately at the end of the day, you look at the matchup.
Only sport this happens in. You realize that, right?
What's that?
Football. It's the only sport that happens in. Nobody that's The Golden State Warriors are going to take 1,000 3-pointers, right, in basketball. They're not like worried about the matchup. The fact they're going to do what they do. In baseball, if you're a team that goes out and mashes, you're not all of a sudden going to go out and decide you're going to like bunt all over the place. Football is the only sport. Look, it is what it is. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying football is the only sport that like worries about the matchups. Every other sport's like, the heck with it. We do what we do. I think the best football coaches are the guys that still say we do what we do.
They're the hardest to scheme for because there's no scheme. They're just going to line up and do whatever they do.
They're going to line up and do whatever they do. Hey, guys, another great show here on Nolf Bites, brought to you by Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram here in Fairmont City. We'll be back at it next week. Who knows what the heck we'll talk about? We don't plan this out. We just talk. We just talk. We'll get Andy talking a little more next week. He didn't talk much this week.
We'll talk about something.
Anyhow, thanks, folks, for joining us on Nolf Bites. Why should you choose Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fairmont City? Why wouldn't you choose them? At Nolf, their sales are speedy and include upfront and straightforward pricing. If it's service and parts you're after, they have skilled technicians who are factory trained while offering knowledgeable parts experts. Maybe you need Nolf's full service body shop offering top quality collision repair to all makes and models of cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Or do you want to cruise the highway in a clean, shiny vehicle thanks to Nolf's detailing service? No matter your needs, Nolf Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Fairmont City is there for you. Find out more at nolfchryslerdodge.com.